introduction and overview. I will. I know Mon's done one of these before, so I'm going to ask Mon to go first, if you don't mind, Mon, and just give us an overview from Heath Farm.
Okay, yeah. Heath Farm is, we've been established about 40 odd years, 80, God, I can't remember, 81 I think it was, when we first opened the first cottage. We are based in North Oxfordshire, halfway between Banbury and Chipping Norton, in the middle of nowhere, at the edge of everything is one of the catch lines my mother came up with many years ago. So yeah, we're obviously a rural location with a diversified farm. We now have 70 acres. Most of it, the majority of it, is woodland. We do have a wildflower meadow, and we do have a small field which is below the holiday cottages, which leads through to our spring-fed lake, which is stocked with trout, which guests can fish. So yes, my parents were very early adopters, diversifying their farm from an old arable pig farm. We've now got about 10 commercial tenants in the old farm buildings. They're all fairly they're certainly not industrial units. They're very much in keeping with the holiday cottages. There's a sort of Spanish theme running throughout the farm. My mum's from the Canary Islands, so yeah, there's sort of Cotswold stones meets Andalusian tiles everywhere, and yeah, nice. Everything's sort of, yeah, well maintained, looked after, so it doesn't look really like a farm. In fact, if we could change the description and avoid the inheritance tax, we'd be laughing. Yeah, we've got 5 cottages, all self. Yeah, they're 3 sleep 2, 2 sleep 4. And they group around a beautiful courtyard, and the cottages are flat bang in the middle of our land. We do a lot in terms of, I mean, we've planted about 40,000 trees on the farm. We have our own sawmill, our own joinery shop. So we literally grow our own trees, saw them up, use them in the joinery. And the joinery was originally set up to create the cottages in the first place. So yeah, we try and do a lot of stuff with the local community. We've got, as far as kind of attractions, nature attractions on the farm, I mean, obviously just having 60, 70 acres of woodland is great. We do a lot of sort of encouragement in terms of information on the website regarding green tourism, and what we do, what guests can help do in terms of that kind of thing. And I guess some of the other attractions, I mean, I mentioned the lake, which is spring fed. We recently rebuilt, well, about 4 years ago, we dredged it out and rebuilt it. So we're getting a bit more sort of biodiversity back from there, back down there. Unfortunately, we don't get as many birds as we'd like on the pond, but I think that's because there's so much trees around, there's no way for them to land. So we do other bits and pieces, a little bit of crossover between what else we do on the farm, the holiday cottages. So things like we grow our own nuts. We've got a hazelnut grove or crop area, and a load of walnut trees. So we grow our own nuts, we produce oils. Those are things that we sell on to our holiday cottage guests. We also produce our own apple juice from our orchard. We do also have a couple of woodland spaces, or event spaces, I should say. One is on the far side of the farm, the noisy side of the farm, where we have a parachute canopy out in the woods, with a fire pit in the middle, and then there's a holiday seating around the edge. And this is used by a couple of woodcraft companies called Little Wild Things and Muddy Feet. So weekends and school holidays, they run sessions for youngsters to go and run around the woods, learn how to make fires, and do all sorts of woodland craft stuff. So that's it's an added bonus and attraction for families that come in half terms, etc. Especially if they flow the kids and have a little bit of peace and quiet to themselves. The other woodland space is comprised of a large stage, 24-foot wide, 12-foot deep. Sorry, I'm not metric. Stage, and then there's like a dance floor area in front of it with a parachute canopy, compost loo, and various other the kitchen area, etc. So we use this space predominantly for everything's centered around health and well-being, nature, etc. So we have various different people that hire the space, or we do run stuff quite often in partnership, where we've had a we do 4 foraging sessions a year. We do that in conjunction with Lizzie Farmer, who's fantastic, and everyone who's come to those has loved those. So those have worked really well. A lot of the other ones are sort of more sort of yoga and gong bathing or woodland bathing, etc. But the whole point with all these things is people trying to reconnect back into nature, and that's the main attraction of being on the farm. Really, is that for most people they come from an urban environment, and they just, one of the things that people always say is, it's so quiet here. When they're in the cottages, they're not used to it. And again, the only sound really you hear, apart from the odd plane and motorbike, is birds and nature itself. So, that's pretty much what we do in a nutshell. I think I've covered everything. Well, actually, there's a couple of other things I should mention. Is they're nature related. I'm not sure. The farms, we've got our own spring water supply, so we do try to encourage guests not to bring bottled water, etc. We've got a large produce garden, so we do in the summer encourage guests to try our own produce. We cut our own flowers in the garden, which is supplied to the holiday cottage guests. And things like being part of the Walkers Welcome Scheme from Visit England. And likewise with the Cyclist Welcome Scheme, where we have listings on the website of different walks around the area and provide various maps. In fact, we've got tons and tons of maps that people can take with them, information, the holiday cottages and the local walks. So again, all of this is trying to encourage people to connect back into nature and to sort of immerse themselves in it.
Fantastic, thanks, Mon. That was a brilliant overview of all different aspects, actually. Do you said you make the nut oils and things? Do you sell those as well outside of, or do you just use those on the farm?
Yeah, my dad used to do all the local farmers markets. Unfortunately, he got pneumonia about 3-4 years ago from it, and Mum's ordered him not to do it any longer. And I think he's just a little bit tired from that. So we actually work with a chap called David Tame, who's a few miles away, and he grows his own nuts, etc. So he's now doing the farmers market. So our dad sort of sells a fair bit of that in bulk. We are hoping that eventually, once we've got various other bits set up and the event space is working better, that we can start to sort of produce our own other produce and actually have some kind of like farm shop reception area where we can showcase those bits as well. So yeah.
Fantastic.
Sorry, you didn't mention, and I don't know how they fit in, but the campfire experience.
Sorry, that's an event space. That's one of the event space ones. So there's a lady called Lauren who's set up a community interest group, and she runs a series of events once a month at the moment up here. So she's done, I think the first one was like a pewter workshop. So all of her events are all based in the woodland event space with the stage, etc. They all involve a campfire, no surprise there. The last one they did was fantastic, actually. That was last Saturday, and that was a Meet the Owls session. So that she had somebody from an owl sanctuary, I can't remember her name, but she came over with a number of different owls and did a talk, and there was about 25 people that attended that. The feedback I got from Lauren was that they all absolutely loved the space and found it a real sort of magical space to do something like that. I did sneak up and watch a little bit of it near the end. I tried to kind of keep hands off to a certain extent and not, not seem like I'm prying, but I did get a few photos which I passed on to Lauren. So yeah, those are really good little events. I mean, we are planning to eventually, when I've built all the extra infrastructure, to be doing some other events where we work with local companies, local caterers, and do sort of themed nights, etc. But yeah, I mean, we're hoping we'll be able to do lots of other workshops. It may well be that I team up more with Lauren to sort of add more to her schedule and do all of that campfire experience, because I think it's a great thing, and it's a community enterprise. And like I said before, we much prefer working in partnerships than just purely renting out the space.
Yeah, I saw there was an event for Bug Hotel building, which I have to say, I just caught my eye, and I was thinking, yay, my son would have loved that when he was little. But yeah.
Yes. So one of the things I'm thinking about is like we have a spoon carver called Martin Damon who uses our own hazel, and he's very keen on doing some kind of workshops up here. We've done other things like mirror making, mosaic workshop as well last year. So yeah, as I say, it's all arts and crafts. Some of it isn't really nature related, but it's all within nature and within a woodland setting. So that kind of thing's hopefully going to work really well. The other thing that we are doing this year is we are teaming up with a company that does these mobile saunas, where they do set up a sauna by a river, etc. And you do your ice bathing and then your sauna, etc. So I'm hoping to do that with them this year down at the lake. But then eventually the idea is that I'll build a sauna next year once I've built the toilet block and rebuilt the catering area and put a roof on it. We've got tons of work to do. But I will be making an outdoor bathroom, for want of a better word. I've only got 3 steel bathtubs. I just need another couple. And the idea is that we fill with spring water, and then you have your hot and cold sessions of those as well. So again, with all these events, and also doing the one I'm doing with my wife, doing yoga sessions, is there'll be brunches, there'll be food involved with those. We're lucky to have Mark's Cotswold Baking here, so we've got access to, on the farm, to all sorts of delicious cakes and breads and croissants and all that kind of stuff. So yes, and so the idea is that we're also showcasing the produce that we make on the farm, because we do other things like elderflower cordial, and they've got big produce gardens, so there's scope to do a lot of stuff with caterers and for events. I'll shut up now.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Mon. Dean, can I ask you to give us an overview from the distillery?
I did have a repurposed PowerPoint if you wanted some imageries of stuff that we've done. I can share that with you guys now. Get that down. Share my screen.
Teams isn't necessarily the most user friendly, I always find.
Doesn't look like it wants to allow me to share my screen. I'll just go through it. So basically, obviously, I started off about 2014 with a 3-acre site. Started a distillery. We're now up to about 10 acres. And if you know anything about distilling, a byproduct of making alcohol is a huge amount of waste product. So we were paying astronomical amounts of money for a company to come into the Cotswolds with big, large tankers to collect this waste. The site previously was a heavily grazed horse paddock, so pretty much devoid of any biodiversity, poor soil quality, not the best land. So we kind of wanted to change that. So we added a series of wetland cells. So we planted about 10,000 willow trees and built 3 ponds. So these now basically take 75% of our effluent waste. So that's all of the stuff that the stills produce as a byproduct and all of the cleaning waste from the stills being washed out. You can't just pour that down the drain as it's contaminated. So now, like I said, these cells, they take 75% of our waste. So we've now saved 60,000 trucks a year coming into the Cotswolds as waste. So I always like to say it comes now from the grain that's grown in the Cotswolds. The grain now ends up in a field in the Cotswolds. So basically what it does is it creates bacteria and fungi added to the first pond, which then eat the contaminants of alcohol and the byproducts of some heavy metals. That filters through another pond into a final pond, which is basically your overflow, which runs onto a coppice of willow trees, which soaks up all of the water that we produce. So like I said, so far we've saved around £60,000 this year alone from these trucks coming in as well. So huge economic saving, also huge environmental saving as well. And so far this has changed our whole site from being devoid of any biodiversity and not a very kind of nice place to be. It was a very kind of full of dry grass and not very nice kind of mixture of plants. We then had a grant from the Gloucester County Council. 3 weeks ago, we planted 1,000 English native trees in pockets, creating little ecosystems, which basically adds little ecosystems for any animals that come in all throughout the year. So we've got things like English hazel, wild, all your different kind of staple, what I call keystone species, to basically add life to all food areas wherever we need. So the willows produce lovely bits of pollen for our beehives that we have. So we've added 4 beehives in to pollinate our wildflower meadows as well. We sell our honey in the shop. And yeah, that's pretty much some of the stuff that we've been doing. So converting back our little patch that was devoid of any life, converting that back into a nice little kind of habitat that's for everyone really. So we obviously, as a business, we wanted it to make it the customers enjoy it. We also wanted to give back to nature as well. So far we've had 2 resident barn owls take up roost next to our wetland project. So they're constantly hunting around, really active. They've got two nests around, I think they're using. We've got 4 red kites that hunt above the distillery now constantly, muntjac, all of the kind of flora and fauna that you could think of have started returning. We've got lots of nice wildflowers that we haven't seen on the site when I first did a survey. Now we've kind of got lovely native like wild orchids I've found and things like this that we've never seen on the site before, obviously being heavily grazed and using pesticides to get rid of all of that lovely kind of bit of turf, now turning back into a lovely natural environment. That's just some of the stuff that we've been. I did have a lovely PowerPoint with lovely images to show you all, but for some reason can't show you that.
That's brilliant. And do the visitors to the distillery, can they go and look around the wetland area and things, or is it sort of?
Yeah. So it's completely open to the public. Obviously, through the winter months, it didn't look particularly stunning with all the willows in kind of no bloom, but it's now obviously springing into spring. You've got all the catkins on the willows at the moment, and they're just starting to kind of bring some leaves back. So it's definitely a nice place to walk. But give it 2 months when our wildflower meadows are all erupting, it'll be a lovely place to come and walk around. But yeah, we've got 2 walks, 5k walks around our site that we give maps for as well. We definitely encourage any visitors that come in to go and look at the wetland project, and we've got big information boards. And when we do the tours, I do at least a 20-minute part about the work that we do to get rid of our waste sustainably.
Sounds amazing.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's nice. Obviously, from being a large business, it's nice to try and actually streamline into creating business and sustainability that come together, because obviously we're here to make profit, but we also want to give back to nature as well. So it's nice that the worlds have kind of merged together.
Well, the thing is, it's a perfect case study to show that it doesn't cost the earth. It actually it's far better to do it that way than modern day methods. So it's brilliant. As I say, it's creating that biodiversity, improving the soil dramatically. It's so crucial, and the fact that regenerative farming is finally dawning on most farmers, and they realise actually they got sold this idea that they had to put all this crap on the fields, etc., to improve yields, and actually you just need to look after nature and look after the soil, and you're going to get far more resilience than with chemicals.
Yeah, sure. I think
we always say.
Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, we have got a little saying that we say about our wetlands. We say, in Wakeshire, there is no waste, because the waste of one organism is food for another. So that's kind of how I sell what I'm talking about, in terms of like a nice little quote that I have on the wetland project.
We're looking at ways to try and engage businesses that aren't doing very much, which is part of the objective with the sustainability champions, because they're all at different stages of the journey. Some are just doing one thing really well or really interesting to people, but certainly on the messaging thing, I think quite clearly, and it's the same a bit with the accessibility we found, is that businesses think of it purely as an expense, that it will cost them to do things, and it's really nice to have a concrete example of something there which, whilst obviously there's money needed for investment to make those changes, is actually a considerable saving to the business. So yeah, really thank you. Fantastic.
Come to the future, it will return more money than we ever put into it. So yeah, it's a huge investment at first, but I mean, we're already seeing the returns from the project 8 months in. So
yeah. And also, I think from the visit experience point of view, it's obviously going to make, well, the dwell time presumably will increase, but obviously when people have wandered around on your 5K thing, they may be in more need of a drink, I suspect, by the end of it. So yeah, hopefully there will be slightly less tangible but obvious benefits from it. Yeah, no, fantastic. Thank you.
No worries.
Should we move to Alex? Because obviously from Farm Ed we just mentioned regenerative farming, so probably a good tie-in.
Yeah, it's a good in, isn't it? That really, it was nicely done. Before I start as well, I want to just mention, when Chris mentioned the campfire experience and the insect hotels thing that's coming up, my ears did prick up, because I'm involved with that. I'm doing a mini bee safari as part of that day. So Mon, I hope I'll be able to meet you there and say hello. But I was waiting just in case Chris was going to go. I did read about the mini beast stuff and thought that looks absolute rubbish. And I'm just thinking, right, okay, am I going to be ready to be offended here? Anyway. So we are Farm Ed. We're just south of Chipping Norton. We are regenerative farmers, essentially. That's what we're doing here. Our whole remit is to have this educational demonstration farm to look at how we can farm sustainably, regeneratively, and how we can teach people about why that matters, be that members of the public who come here to come on our farm walks, to wander around the farm and learn a bit about what farming is on a more conventional level, and how to do things a little bit differently in a regenerative sort of circle. And to have some farmers come by, some of whom are sort of starting their journey into regen, starting to dip their toes, finding out what things they can do to change up their farms, make them a bit more resilient, a bit more regenerative. And very occasionally we have some very hardline conventional farmers who are a bit more, I'm not sure about this, I don't agree with all this, to have those sort of difficult conversations, because our whole sort of ethos and thought here is that we're not going to get to this ideal regenerative future where we're improving the soils and improving the quality of our food and being more self-sustaining without having some difficult conversations along the way, and without bringing people together who can actually make these differences, who can actually have these conversations to discuss. So despite the fact that we have all these things going on around the farm for people to come and have a look at and to get involved with, we'd like to see ourselves as a bit of a point for people to come and talk and have these discussions and to meet and to hash out all these sorts of thoughts. So we started about, I think it was about 10 years ago. Our founders, Ian and Celine, bought the farm. It was originally a barley farm for about 60 years, I think. So they did have dairy cows and beef cows at one point, but they left in the sort of the early 2000s. And then we sort of, they worked for Cotswold Seeds, separate business over in Moreton and Marsh, and sort of over the years have been thinking about what can we do to educate people about why any of this matters, how to do regenerative farming, how we can do things slightly differently. So they bought the farm and they set it up, and we've diversified it massively over the past 10 years. We have some sort of wilded areas, a bit of woodland. We have our natural flood management, which has a little pond, a little stream. We have sort of lots of herbal lays, lots of wildflowers, quite a few different things going on anyway. And a lot of that is in the name of nature and improving the soil. So we don't use any chemicals across most of the farm for our farming. One plot at the very start of our farm, which is what we call our control plot, our conventional plot, which is wheat grown using traditional chemicals, your fertilizers, pesticides, fungicides, etc. And that's more for means of having a demonstration of how it happens elsewhere, for a comparison point for other parts of the farm where we're doing things in a more sustainable, regenerative way. It is also worth mentioning that we do have plenty of buffer strips and wildflower strips to collect the chemical runoff from those, so that to try and minimize the impact that will have on the rest of the environment around the farm, because we want to show off how it affects the soil, how it affects the crop, not necessarily how it will damage the rest of the environment in our farm, because we want our farm to be nice and healthy and have lots of different things going on for wildlife. But those buffer strips, those wildflower strips, are also great for birds and insects, and also with them being sustainable farming incentives or countryside stewardships, good for farmers and people to discuss how they can get a bit of money for putting aside bits of their farm for improving wildlife, improving nature, etc. We do have livestock on the farm, which are all fed. So we have sheep at the moment, chickens, a few things like that. We have lots of plants that we feed them on that are natural anthelmitics, so they're not having to be chemically wormed as often as they would otherwise, which means that their dung is really good, really healthy for dung beetles and worms, which means that they're improving the soil as well, so the soil's getting even healthier. We've got our own kitchen garden. It's a separate company that rents a bit of land, about 5 acres from us, over on the end of the farm, and they produce a lot of our vegetables. So they sell them as part of a CSA box scheme. So they're giving those out to members of the public. People can subscribe and get those. But we get a good bit of their vegetables for our cafe. So our food miles, when we talk about food miles with people, our food miles for a lot of our vegetables and things is probably not even 1 mile, which is fantastic. It's really, really good. A lot of our wheat that we use is heritage wheat grown on site, so we can have that, send it over to Matthews Mill in Shipton, and they can send that back to us, where you can use that in our bread, cakes, etc. in our cafe, which people are welcome to come and have a little look around, come and have something to eat, have a wander around. We do have sort of courses, lunchtime talks, ways for people to come and learn a bit of something about farming, nature, get involved in some way, whether it be science, policy, whatever we've got going on that time. People can come and get involved, learn a little bit. But we also have a lot of space for wildlife. By diversifying the farm over the past 10 years, I think we've gone from, I think there was 44 species of bird when we first bought the farm. And a couple of years ago, when we did another survey, there was 89 species of birds. So by diversifying the farm a little bit, we've more than doubled the species of birds that are living on the farm, which is fantastic. We do have some barn owls, like Dean said. We've got some, kestrels and buzzards, kites, and loads of fantastic birds. Loads of insect wildlife that I'm, as an entomologist, keeping an eye on at the moment, trying to monitor how they're all improving, which things are moving on to farm now that we've diversified the landscape a little bit from a more traditional farm. But a lot of our remit is mostly to do with teaching people about why it matters, why we do what we do, and how they can do things in ways that will improve either their farmland or, on a smaller scale, bits of land they might have access to. But aside from that, we have plenty of other things going on, like similarly to has been mentioned before. We tend to recycle quite a bit of rainwater. We have a spring-fed system here as well on the farm, so a lot of our vegetables, wheat and irrigation is done using rainwater and things like that, so rather having to pull up from mains. We have solar panels as well for a lot of our buildings, so we don't have to rely quite so much on mains electricity for that as well. It also helps for our electric car charger, so that's always quite good. But we also have just a great network of people who are involved with FarmEd, who are volunteers or people who work close by, who come and help us with various things. So there's lots of people who are getting involved. We're learning about different things, helping us to improve the farm, to make it more accessible, more nature friendly, keeping an eye on the species that we have on the farm, all the different things that we can do. We have rotations in the soil, so we're trying to move things around. Herbal lays, they've got lots of plants in there, sequencing them, sequestering that nitrogen and carbon into the soil to improve that soil quality as we move it all around. I mean, I could probably go on. We've planted 10,000 trees since 2014 as part of our agroforestry scheme around the farm, with the aims of those being able to be coppiced at some point, so we can use them as wood chip, as fertilizer around the farm. But before we get to that point, they will be a bit of browse for things like our sheep and our livestock, a little bit of shade, a little bit of cover for them. Good for the soils, diversifying the rootstock in there. A lot of things we do are aiming towards reducing the sort of monoculture effect of large amounts of just one crop. So we have our heritage grains are a good example of that. There's a bit of genetic diversity in the field to prevent it getting too stale, too stagnant, too one note. I think I mean, again, like I said, I could go on, but I think I've covered the basics.
I don't know if it was you, Mon, but I do remember in one of these somebody was saying about their biomass boiler and they had to use wood chips that were imported. Was it you, Mon?
Yes, it was. Yeah, I was saying how sceptical I am about some of these schemes, etc. Where the wood, the pellets, which have got to be a particular standard, etc., which makes it very hard for you to actually do it yourself. Which the irony is, we've got 3 joinery shops here on the farm. We should be able to use that and compact that and either make bricks or ideally pellets use the biomass boiler. But yeah, the pellets come from Canada, and the irony was that the supplies got shorter and more expensive because they had big wildfires there because of climate change. So the fact that these pellets are getting shipped across from Canada to here it's just it's just ridiculous.
That's one for the local MPs, I suspect too. I don't know if you've mentioned it. I'm seeing the MP at the Cotswold Lakes tomorrow, so I might just bring that up as an example of something.
I think these things are all good intention, but unfortunately in practice some of the times they don't work. I mean, there's all this talk about greenwashing, but and it's true, but hold on a second. Just hang up on that one. But yeah, it's like the fleeces, when fleeces were first made. Oh, it comes from 7 or 8, 9 plastic bottles, and they've been recycled. Great, and you push all that, and then you just go, well, it's microplastics. It's creating microplastics and damaging the environment. But that's plastic for you all round, really. Or disposable plastic. Yeah.
Alex, can I just ask, do you have school groups come to the farm?
Yes, yeah. We invite school groups quite often. We've just recently, we've been using the FIPL grant to be able to afford to bring groups from schools who wouldn't otherwise be able to afford to come and visit the farm, to be able to come here for free. So we're applying for another round of that again this year, fingers crossed. So we have schools. We try and get them fairly frequently. We do have members of the public. We have farm groups, or certain companies can come and use our space, our conference space, for various events, and they're welcome to come and look around the farm, provided that we try and keep it as much on message as possible. But we do tend to have our conference spaces available to rent out for pretty much whoever. Yeah, we have schools, plenty of schools and kids, and good links with schools in the local area.
I'm smiling because Lindsay's thinking she's on her PTA for her kids, so you'll be seeing her kids.
You know where we are?
Yeah. You read my mind. Brilliant. Thank you ever so much for that. Lindsay, last but not least, if you can fill us in on Coldcot's work.
Yeah, I will do. It's been really inspiring to hear what everyone else has had to say. It really is. So I work at Calcott and Spa. So Calcott and Spa is a hotel and spa. It's been established for about 40 years now. So opened around 1984, I think. So obviously hotel, spa, we've got a creche, and we now have a members club as well. So we've just opened a new gym. So we've got a lot of people kind of coming to the site and flowing through the site. Where we're based, I mean, I wouldn't say we're totally rural. I'd probably say we're semi-rural. So we're just outside of Tetbury, just off of the A46. But what we do have here is 220 acres of what used to be intensively farmed farmland. So we've had that. The house is essentially a farmhouse. That's what it started out as. So that land has always sort of been with Calcott Manor. When we sort of took over about 40 years ago, it had all of this land. And then I think it was within the last 25 years, they've started looking at, what should we do with this land? How can we look after it? So about 25, 30 years ago, they planted their first sort of wildflower meadow. And that's really where it all started. And it's kind of just slowly moved on from there. So after that, I think it was an organic farmer who rented some of the land from us. He has now left. So what we're left with is the 220 acres that we are now trying to sort of renature. So we've been planting lots of native hedgerows. We've had grants from the council for that. We've got wildflower meadows. We've got different types of grass meadows. We've got some orchards. We've got some really small kind of pockets of, I mean, it's really tiny. You wouldn't really call it woodland. I don't know what to call it. Probably a collection of trees, maybe. We have at the moment some National Trust cows who've come to graze on some of our grass here, which is great because that's helping with the soil and promoting the biodiversity and things. They're only here, I think, there's a certain amount of days that they can be here because they're not actually organic cows, but our land is certified organic at the moment. So yeah, we have to be careful with that, but that's all through the National Trust. We are doing our best to promote biodiversity. So we have got beehives now. So we have 2 hives. These are relatively new. We've had them for a couple of years. We have a guy that comes in, I think his name's Adam Knight, and he manages those for us. But they seem to be doing really, really well. And we've got lots of birds now coming back onto the site. So we've had some rare birds. We've got corn buntings and yellowhammers, and we've got some short-eared owls now, as well as some barn owls. So that's all going really well. I think we have to kind of balance what we do with those birds being around. So, we can't plant like trees in the middle of our fields anymore because we have to be careful about our ground nesting birds and birds of prey and stuff. So it's always kind of thinking about what we're trying to encourage and that sort of stuff. We have now got a land management plan together. So what we're trying to achieve within the next 5 years, essentially, and what we're kind of targeting. But I mean, the main goal is increasing biodiversity. We do quite a bit here with regard to activities. So we have what we call dawn walks and dusk walks. So we're trying to get our members and our guests to come out and see the land. So we have what we call the nature trail, which is about 5K through the various meadows and things. So there's a guy that holds those for us. I think his name is Ed Druitt. He's a bird expert. So he'll take people out, he'll talk about the land, and he'll talk about the birds that we are now seeing here, which we didn't used to see before. So he does those dawn and he does them at dusk as well. And the other thing we have is the creche. So we have our members' children come along to the creche sometimes, and we have our obviously our residents' children as well. And what we do with them is try and do lots of nature-related activities. So they get taken out into the fields, they do lots of different things. Sometimes they collect like little materials and make collages and talk about the land. And that's really enjoyed by the children. In fact, so much so that we just put up a teepee about 2 years ago for children to actually play in the outside. So rather than being inside in the creche in the summer or in the spring months, they actually get to go out to the teepee and they play out there, and it's basically just surrounded by trees and grass and nature. So that's gone down really, really well. The kids seem to really enjoy that. It's just great. They've got the freedom to be with nature, essentially, I suppose. We have lots of bikes here, so we try and get our guests to use bikes rather than drive to places, so if they can. So we've got just normal pedal bikes, and then we've got some electric bikes as well if that's what they feel they need. They can do that on our nature trail, so the designated paths, or they can take them off site. We have maps and things for walks, so they can go off on the Cotswold Way, or they can just walk around our acres. And then we have a lot of corporate activities as well. So companies will come in and then they will do, for example, they'll watch Adam do some beekeeping and be involved with that. That's quite popular. Lots of people like to come and do that. We'd like to maybe start talking to maybe some local groups, maybe in Tetbury. I think there's one called Greening Tetbury. Try and get a collaboration with them and work together with them. I know that they're doing a bit on land and biodiversity and things, so it'd be good to reach out to them. We at the moment are looking at trialing coffee logs. So we have some outdoor fire pits. Well, obviously we have to sort of burn wood, but we're taking our coffee waste now and turning it into coffee logs, which we are hoping to launch in April, where we can burn those on our fire pits rather than logs. And that just takes out the coffee waste that just goes, to our food waste stream. If we can use it and repurpose it for that, we think that'd be really, really useful. We were thinking about getting kids involved in that. I don't know about the risk assessment on that though, so maybe need to look at that. Yeah, I mean, it's all moving forward. I suppose we're not new to this because we've been doing it for 25 years, but I think now is the time that we are really kind of focusing in on it and thinking to ourselves now, like, how can we move this forward? What else can we do? And I think that's kind of come alongside us looking at sustainability generally through EarthCheck. So I'd say there's a real focus on it now. So it's just great to hear what everyone else is doing because it's just really inspiring.
That's brilliant. You said that you have corporate groups and they do the beekeeping and that kind of thing. Are you going to look to do that for people that come and stay, just as sort of general public and things?
Yeah, I don't know about that, to be honest with you. Yeah, it would be something that we could possibly consider, but I don't think it's on the agenda at the moment. It's more for people who come in and they might have like a corporate day with us, and they like use our meeting room or whatever, and they want an activity to break it up. And what kind of better thing to do really than to get out onto the nature trail and be outside? Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the things that strikes me, I mean, in this and the other ones we've had, is not only is obviously the well done, we're doing good things, but it's also how this enhances the visitor experience.
Yeah.
And I think that's often the key thing that's slightly overlooked. I mean, one of the things that is, again, one of the trends within the visitor economy and within tourism is that move to experiential tourism. So sustainable and experiential are, very closely linked. I don't know who's been to the local connections events that we've organized, any of those, but that's exactly what we're trying to do with those, is help businesses to meet other local businesses to enhance our experience, because we're lucky that we've got so many amazing businesses in the Cotswolds and so few of the large corporate chains that don't want to get involved and don't want to deal with any of these kind of things and don't work for us. So it's I have to say I'm there and I'm kind of thinking, God, I want to see all these things in all these. Everyone who's I've been lucky enough. I've been to the distillery, but I hadn't even realised there was I've been there a few times, but hadn't realised the wetland area was there. It probably wasn't last time I was there. I don't know how long that's been, but Mo and I have been to Heath Farm, and lovely, absolutely gorgeous, and the lake. But yeah, I kind of think from a visitor point of view, yeah, absolutely ticks all the right boxes, really. Lindsay, anything you wanted to say? Or did anybody have any questions in general of each other or of us?
No. One thing that did come up, and I think it was Jeannie Jeffries from Brimbo who mentioned it at a different forum. And she's been to a couple of forums and heard from the champions and sort of said, is there any chance that we could organise groups, like a group visit, to come out to some of the champions so that we can actually see it in person? And I thought that was actually a really good idea and a really nice idea. So one of the things I will come out to the champions, probably not immediately, is just if there's anyone that would happily host a group coming, and then I can see what I can organise. I don't imagine it'd be many people. I think it would just be the likes of Jeannie, who obviously finds it very interesting and wants to bring that more into her B&B, and she can learn from the champions more, I think. So yeah, so that's another sort of thought that. And I think, Mon, you put your hand up at that one when Jeannie suggested it. So
sorry, I realised I was muted. I was just going to ask if that's going to be part of the sort of local connections networking groups that you do.
I think it'll probably be slightly separate.
Right.
We have for local connections, again, we have to secure funding to run each one, and I think we've done 3 now. I think, Chris, haven't we?
Yeah.
So I think there's an appetite to do more, but probably not for the sort of foreseeable future. I think we've got quite a few other things to deliver first. But yeah, I think it would be good. And
one of the things, and I don't know if anyone here has got any good suggestions, but that we are thinking about a lot is how to engage the people who aren't engaged, because it is the perennial problem both on this and on the accessibility side in getting businesses to actually to be more involved, because it's something that economically can make sense. I mean, whether it's accessibility, there's this obsession with it being all about wheelchairs, but that's 7% of people who've got a disability. It is a huge potential market. Statistically, you can show that repeat visitors, it's far higher amongst people with disabilities than it is with other groups. So there's a whole host of things, but again, getting businesses engaged with this or with sustainability, those who aren't doing much and who have the assumption that all these things are going to cost them money immediately with disability stuff, they think we're talking about physical changes to the properties, which isn't necessarily what it's about at all, and there are a lot of minor changes that can be made. So I don't know, we're looking at various ideas. We have thought of one which is sort of slightly sandbagging people. We're quite keen to do a sort of a large webinar and get people in to talk about a number of topics, and sort of then slightly probably spring on them those ones that they maybe weren't motivators to come along. So do it as a part of marketing or whatever it might be, because I think they're missing a trick. And I think it's one thing that struck Lindsay when we were doing the research into trying to find a really good cross section of businesses to be champions, which Lindsay's done a fantastic job on, because they're from all sizes of businesses and all types of businesses, but was that how bad so many of the businesses were at putting anything on their websites about the fantastic things that they're doing that are really interesting, and which will help promote those businesses to visitors. It will just helps to sway opinion, I guess, is not necessarily to be the motivating factor. So I don't know, that's one we'll come back to. I don't know if you want to add anything there, Lindsay.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, go on.
No, I was just going to say that I last year attended a Pride of Britain a forum on sustainability, and they spoke a lot about taking people on the journey with you and how you get those people that are not interested in just trying to get them involved with it. Obviously some of it's education, but also some of it's actually proving that you can, like the cost savings essentially, because that's what drives business, isn't it? Like we know this is important because we're all here today and we're talking about it, and at one point or other we've become involved with it. But some people don't understand the importance, but they do understand that they need to save money. So that was a big thing. A lot of the companies there had taken on sustainability advisors, and they paid for themselves. And they were showing, there was this hotel in London, I think it was called the Athenaeum. They had taken on a sustainability person, and he'd basically saved them 140 grand in a year. Like that speaks, doesn't it? Really. So when they see that, then they start to become more sort of engaged with it. And if you can just start them on that journey. I think that's the start, if you can. But
yeah, we
it's
have
hard.
in the past emphasized that, but
Yeah.
our experience still very much is that the vast majority of businesses that are doing anything, and again, I would say that it's very analogous between the two areas, sustainability and accessibility. It tends to be a personal interest and choice, and that I think seems to be the common thread. We're looking at ways, and certainly, the emphasising the savings bit is without a doubt part and parcel of it. But yeah, it's not easy.
No, it's not.
Was there anything else, Lindsay, or should we say
Nothing
thank you?
from me. No.
Okay.
No,
we will be out again. We've got some quite. Lindsay got very excited with the funding that we've managed to get and the stuff that's in the pipeline. I get slightly less excited just because I'm thinking there are 1,001 other things that we're also promised and are planning to do, but it's the usual thing, rather too much than too little. But we will no doubt be in touch with you about some of those. And Mon, we'll see you on the accessibility hat. And I think Alex, I believe Carrie Lightly's coming to Farm Ed as well to do the nature trail in a tramper. She's in a wheelchair, but coming to do it in a tramper. So yeah, fantastic. Thank you. I don't know who was involved with Sally in the Help to Thrive and getting experiences is another of the things that we've been working on, trying to get people to do experiences that are available to the general public. I don't know. Who's been involved in any of the Help to Thrive workshops or no?
I don't know.
Okay. Well, thank you ever so much for your time, and lovely to see you all. Sorry we didn't get, I think everybody dropped out then. There were, I think, 6 people who were originally, others who weren't champions who were coming along. But yeah, I'm afraid that's beyond our control.
But this will be available for people to watch. We'll be promoting the recordings, so hopefully people can watch them at their leisure.
Yeah. Thank you ever so much, and no doubt we'll see you all soon in one way or another. Cheers then. Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Bye.